3 of the British Talent Cup here at Donington, at the Snetterton circuit then. And it is going to be hugely exciting, this one. Let's get ready for the racing. It's been a very exciting time here at the British Talent Cup for the last couple of rounds. It kicked off, of course, in 2018 at Donington Park, and some very exciting racing that we've had over the course of the last couple of rounds. It's going to be pretty much the same really here this afternoon at Snetterton. The first couple of rounds, as we said, at the Donington Park circuit, we had, of course, the first round supporting the British Superbike Championship, and then the second round supporting WorldSBK just a couple of weeks ago. And that's pretty much set to be the same here this afternoon. Round 3, of course, as we said, held at the Snetterton circuit. It is going to be a hugely exciting time. Weather this weekend looking pretty good, and the championship standings as well have been very interesting in terms of who has been up the sharp end of the order. So round 3 of the British Talent Cup then here at the Snetterton circuit. It is going to be a very exciting time, as we said, and you can hear and see the runners and riders that are out on circuit at the moment. My name's Tom Brooks. Alongside me for today is Michael Laverty. And Michael, you've got a wealth of experience in bike racing. You've been out on this Snetterton circuit here this afternoon as well, and we're set for a very exciting time here. Yeah, it's a great circuit. They kind of added that internal loop in 2011, and it has added kind of a European feel to the track. So it's a first experience for these Talent Cup guys on this circuit, having had 2 rounds at Donington. So it's a new challenge for them, and it seems once again the more experienced guys in Rory Skinner, Thomas Strudwick and Max Cooke seem to be finding their feet a little bit quicker, but bodes for an exciting race. Those 3 were really strong at Donington Park, and a great fight at the front. So I think the Snetterton circuit, it lends itself well for great racing, because we've got a good mix of corners. So we've got the fast flowing like 90-degree turns, but the 180 turns at turn 2 and turn 4. Those hairpins lend themselves to good overtaking manoeuvres. So I expect to see an exciting race, and possibly down the order some of the less experienced guys maybe getting a little bit carried away, and some down the inside moves. Well, exactly, as you said there, Michael. And the championship standings after the first couple of rounds in the season so far are pretty interesting. It's still Thomas Strudwick that leads the way. The first 2 rounds at Donington Park he's done very well at. 3 podiums in 4 races, including a win, of course, in the first race of the season. Second place in the championship, though, is the man who starts from pole position. That is Rory Skinner. He's on 51 points, 6 points adrift of Thomas Strudwick in the lead of the championship. But Skinner with 2 podiums so far this season, including, of course, that win in the first race at Donington Park. Skinner this weekend, Michael, the Scotsman has looked absolutely untouchable so far. Yeah, I think his experience is definitely shining through. I spoke to him on Thursday, and he'd never been here before on a Moto3 bike, so that's a really impressive performance. He seemed to always have about half a second advantage over the rest of the guys. He could make a break now in this race, but I think the other guys may be able to chase him a little bit. There's 2 long straights here, so the slipstream advantage may keep the race a little bit closer. But as you say, Rory's looked fantastic so far, and he is the guy to beat. So let's see if Max Cooke and Thomas Strudwick can up their game and just challenge him. Exactly as you said there, and you can see here, this man here, this is Rory Skinner, who will be starting from the pole position on the grid, the front row, of course. Alongside him is the number 5, that's Max Cooke. Now, Cooke, as we know, 3rd in the championship, good pace for him. 2 podiums so far this season, of course, including that win in the most recent race at Donington Park. He will certainly be one to watch, as could this man here, Michael. Josh Watley, youngest rider in the field, just 12 years of age, 4th in the championship. He is looking in pretty good form. Yeah, he's got quite a lot of experience for being so young, and he came out at round 1, stuck out on the podium, looked to be able to run those guys' pace at round 1. He was a little bit kind of off pace for him at round 2 at Donington. He wasn't quite able to maintain that form, but this weekend he's looking good. He's in there in the mix on the second row of the grid. So as I said,
that draft, that slipstream, and having someone to gauge, he should be able to up his game now in the race and hopefully hang on. It was a 3-horse race really for the podium last time out, although Fenton Seabright could match the podium runners. He just was unlucky with a couple of crashes. It's going to be interesting to see. This guy Brian Hart has really shown pace this weekend, as there's Cameron Horseman and Josh Watley in the second row. They're all getting a little bit closer, so it's for me it's quite interesting to see how those guys in the middle of the pack raise their game, because the front row is quite an experienced lineup. Whenever you look at Rory, Max and Thomas, they're the guys with the experience, and as the season progresses we expect to see the other guys learning from what they're doing with those guys on track, following them, picking better braking markers and lines and stuff. So it's interesting to watch that progression.
Yeah, it certainly is. And this Snetterton circuit, one of course that does lend itself to some very, very close racing, and as Michael said, the slipstream is going to be very important as well. This man here, Max Cooke, starts from the middle of the front row of the grid. As we said, for him, third in the championship so far, and it's going to be interesting to see how he will fare, as will this man here, Rory Skinner, going down towards that first corner. If this is your first time tuning into the British Talent Cup, then you'll note, of course, that everybody's on exactly the same motorcycles, and that is, of course, is part of, well, why British Talent Cup is so close in terms of its racing, because everybody on exactly the same machinery, exactly the same sets of rules, and it does make it very, very exciting. Rory Skinner here has been testing for the last couple of weeks, as we understand, on board, or last couple of days rather, I should say, on board a 600cc machine, so he's got some relatively recent experience of this circuit after having raced internationally.
Yeah, I believe he was out at Knockhill with the BSB guys earlier in the week as well on a 600, so yeah, a lot of these guys do ride all sorts of bikes in between, mostly smaller machines like 150 CRF bikes converted for supermoto and riding on kart track, but a lot of them they just need to keep riding, keep practicing their craft, if you like, because they are so inexperienced, and a lot of them so young that every time they go on track they're going to be, you know, like a sponge, just absorbing everything, soaking it in, learning and improving, and until they reach those kind of, 10,000 hours they reckon of purposeful riding and practice before you become an expert in any given field. So every time they go on track they should be learning, should be practicing between the events, trying to race when they can, when they're not on Talent Cup duty, and then coming here and hoping to raise their game and show what they've got, really.
Well, as we mentioned as well, a couple of absences so far this weekend as well. That's namely in the name of Storm Stacey, unfortunately, who will not be racing. Training accident for him. And likewise, Fenton Seabright as well. Both of those riders, unfortunately, out of the racing here this weekend. Hopefully, they'll be back in action for the next time that we go racing here for the British Talent Cup. But it is going to be a bit of a struggle for those guys, both carrying a couple of injuries. Storm Stacey in particular, he's got a broken scaphoid. And the other rider, as we said, of Fenton Seabright, he has actually broken a couple of bones in his forearm. So a bit of a shame there, Michael, and not exactly what they'll have needed at this crucial point, really, in this short season.
No, as I said, Fenton was one of the guys who, you know, watching him at Donington Park, he looked like the guy who could battle for the win with the top three, and he was unlucky with a couple of crashes there. The last lap, pushing for the podium finish in race 1 at the last round at Donington Park, and then was unlucky on the opening lap of race 2. So, you know, he's not had the best run of form. Even the first round he had to start from the very back of the grid, but came through and got a podium. So he's shown a lot of promise. An injury at this stage of the season, especially one that didn't happen in competition, is quite frustrating. You know, his development will be stalled ever so slightly, missing this round, and hopefully he can get back for the next round.
Exactly. You can see a few clouds overhead here at the Donington Park circuit as well. With a bit of luck, the weather should say pretty nice. It has been relatively interesting so far this weekend in terms of the weather. Of course, it is Britain, and it does lend itself to a little bit of rain every now and then, but it has stayed away for the most part today. A few showers this morning, but otherwise all okay. Yeah,
it's not been too bad this weekend so far. We've had a few rain clouds just creep in and spots of rain, but the track's never actually been wet, so there's quite a lot of rubber down. The grip's pretty good. Hopefully those clouds stay away for the remainder of the weekend, and we get some good dry racing today and tomorrow.
Well, exactly right. So the grid for this race then is going to be an exciting one going down towards that first corner. You can see the fans here at the Snetterton circuit watching on for the British Talent Cup. It's Rory Skinner, Max Cooke and Thomas Strubwick on the front row of the grid. Row 2, Brian Hart, Cameron Horseman and Josh Watley. Row 3, Scott Ogden, Rhys Irwin and Franco Bourne. Row 4, Lewis Patterson, Jack Nixon and Jack Hart. Row 5, Jamie Davis, Jonathan Campbell and Ross Turner. Then row 6, the penultimate row of the grid, is Charlie Atkins, Scott Swan and Charlie Farrer. And the 7th row of the grid, Sam Laffins, Harvey Claridge, and then Aidan Davey, the Scotsman, rounding out the 21-rider strong field here this afternoon. So this Snetterton circuit then, 4.7 kilometres, 2.9 miles to you and me, 12 corners in total, and the longest straight, 777 metres. The slipstream, though, is pretty much going to be the talking point over the course of this one.
Yeah, I think so. It lends itself for good racing due to keeps them bunched together. So the run down the front straight into turn one's a great passing manoeuvre if you can get the draft just at the braking point, pull alongside. The same goes for the back straight. So on the run down to the bridge at the end, it's the fastest part of the track, and then everyone will kind of get that draft and then spread out and then hope you hit your braking mark, because that can really cost you if you just go a little bit too deep at the end of the back straight. The escape road kind of costs you about 5 seconds maybe, so you could ruin your race very easily on this opening lap. Whenever these guys have been riding probably by themselves, maybe with a few riders, on that first lap there's going to be a 21 bike slipstream, a freight train down that straight, so you'll arrive there probably 4 to 5 mile an hour faster than you've done all weekend, so hitting your braking point, and you could very easily get sucked in, so not making those early mistakes is going to be key.
And what is going through these young riders' minds at the moment? We've got a minute to go until the race starts here, Michael. Oh, until the warm-up lap gets underway, I should say, rather. It is going to be so action-packed, so drama-filled. What can you do to keep calm at this moment? It's
a difficult thing, and it becomes easier with time, but this build-up to the race, until the light goes out, there's not a lot you can do to calm the nerves. Your stomach will be churning, you'll have butterflies, and you'll just kind of be worrying about the start. You know, you've got so many things in your head, you know, what you're going to do on the first lap. You're line into turn one, so it's one of those. Once the light goes out, you forget about all the panic and all the stress. It's quite a natural feeling. Then once you get in the race, you can enjoy it a little bit. The nerves disappear, and it's just all about focusing on your job in hand. Well, focus is going to be the name of the game for these runners and riders then. So they're going to be setting off on their formation lap just about now. As we said, 21 of them on the grid, getting ready to go down towards this first corner. It's going to make it pretty exciting and very, very unpredictable, that is for sure. Let's see what will happen then. 21 riders, as we said. And as we said, leading the championship as well, Thomas Strubwig on board the number 8. He starts on the outside of the first row of the grid. His third front row start in as many races. Conversely, Rory Skinner, who starts from pole position here this afternoon, his first front row start of the season. Skinner, of course, the vastly experienced Scotsman who's been racing in the Moto3 Junior World Championship in years gone by, has had a lot of experience in other championships, Morawaki Junior Cup and the Aprilia Super Teams as well over here in the UK, to name just a couple. So he is certainly going to be one to watch. His pace, as we said so far this weekend, has certainly left him with quite a lot to do and quite a lot of expectation on his shoulders as well. Starts from pole position, but with 0.6 of a second clear in qualifying. What do we reckon then, Michael, is going to be the key in this race for these riders to just make a break and keep that racing close? Yeah, I think for Rory, having that 0.6 advantage, if he can make a break in the opening lap and break that draft, there is a chance he could disappear off to win by 4 or 5 seconds. Max Cooke is probably, he's going to be wanting to hang on to him, get that good start on the early laps and not lose touch. Max looked very aggressive in his riding style, braking quite late, and if he can just up his game a little bit and match Rory in the opening laps and not let Rory get away, he'll possibly settle and then fight it out towards the end. So it's going to be an interesting, definitely this first lap, it's going to be track position is going to be key. So if Rory doesn't get the jump and he's back in 4th or 5th, then the whole race is to play for. We'll go down this straight in towards the left-hander, which follows. It's certainly going to be a very opportune passing place. As we said, that is the scene of the longest straight on this circuit, 777 metres in length. And the slipstream here, as we said, is going to be into effect. One of the big talking points going into this weekend has been gearing for these bikes. Riders running different sprockets, longer gear ratios, trying to get a bit more top speed. But in the converse of that, they've been sacrificing acceleration. Yeah, it's something we are also playing about with a lot on the superbikes. It's so important here. As you say, you've got the top speed straight, but you need to be able to jump off that last corner and get that acceleration off the turn. So it's one of the few things these guys in the Talent Cup can play with. They're restricted on what they can do, and gearing can make a huge difference. So it'll be interesting to see those guys who get the punch off the turn, and those guys who have the top end will know the gearing choices they've went for. Well, here we go. We can see the runners and riders heading onto the grid. On the outside, that's the number 8. That's Thomas Strubwig. Keep an eye out for him. Championship leader, of course. In the middle of the front row, it is Max Cooke. Just lining up in the pole position there on the number 11. That is Rory Skinner. As we said, 16 years old from Perth in Scotland.
and easily the most experienced man on the grid. Quite a commandable advantage he had in qualifying. And ahead of these runners and riders, it is going to be very interesting going down towards that first corner. 14 laps here of this Snetterton circuit. Just over 2 minutes there and thereabouts in terms of lap time as well. You can feel the tension in the air. You can see the green flag waved at the back. Look to the left-hand corner of your screen. Wait for those red lights to come on then. Here at the Snetterton circuit, it's lights out and away we go. And it's a brilliant start from Rory Skinner off of pole position. Everybody getting away relatively well. Thomas Strubwick, though, struggling on the outside of the front row, but he's made a bit of initial launch on the second part of it. But it is Max Cooke who leads the way from Rory Skinner. Thomas Strubwick holds on to third position, so he manages to retain his qualifying position as we go through that first corner, coming down towards the first real passing opportunity. And you can see quite a few dicey moves being made in towards that hairpin. Hopefully the 21 runners and riders are all able to make it through relatively cleanly, and it looks like they've been able to there, Michael. So a nice clean start from everybody involved.
Everyone clean through turn 2. That's an easy one to get sucked in there, trying to make an early pass, but some mature riding from the young guys. I expected a little bit of bumping and barging, but they all give each other room. So a great start from Max Cooke, exactly what he needed to do, head Rory in the early laps and keep him behind as long as possible.
Well, I was talking to to Max's mentor rather, just a few moments before we came over to the commentary box here, and said to him, what exactly do you think Max is going to be able to do in that race? Will he be able to stop the charge of Rory? And he said, well, he knows he can run with him, but it's just a case of if he's able to thwart him in the first couple of laps. And you can see how much quicker Rory Skinner is here in the middle part of this lap here, really closing up. The top 3, though, already making quite a profound gap there to the rest of the field. Yeah,
the top 3 have a little bit of an advantage to make that gap already in half a lap. They are, at the moment, the class of the field. So it's going to be interesting to see. You can see Rory looked a little bit impatient to get to the front there, and he was carrying good corner speed. But then you watch this back straight, and his size is actually a disadvantage. So he's got big limbs, and he's not able to tuck in just as well as Max and Thomas do, and it's going to hurt him in the race. So yeah, it looks like Max has got something here. As I said, watching him at Donington, he looked aggressive, and watching him push the front through the bomb hole there, that's full commitment. There's a dip into there and a few little ripples, and you see the front moving, and that's fantastic riding from Max.
Josh Watley's up in the 4th place as well on the opening lap, so that's a really good start for the youngster. He's managed to get himself up from 6th position on the grid, so a couple of positions gained. Look at how much, though, Rory Skinner is really trying to challenge against the number 5 of Max Cooke as we come over the timing line to complete the first lap then here at the Snetterton circuit. And you can see the advantage that Cooke is able to get as they go on towards that straight and down towards that first corner. The smaller rider, of course, having better traction and having better drive out of that corner. The acceleration is very impressive indeed. Watley in 4th, Brian Hart in 5th, Scott Ogden in 6th position.
Possibly a little bit of a gearing advantage, as we spoke about before the race, because Max did look like he's getting a slightly better acceleration there than Rory off the last corner. It could just be line choice. We'll wait to see as the race develops if it is a little bit better acceleration or top speed he's got.
So through the right-hander, through the left-hander we go, rather. You can see there Cooke still trying to strink out that advantage, and the number 8 of Thomas Strubwick in 3rd position, just lying there instead. And you can see the number 9 there as well. That's Brian Hart. He's made actually a very good recovery after starting in 4th position, making his way back up into 4th place. Nice little battle going on at 4th position there. Hart in 4th at the moment, as we said, just ahead of Josh Watley. Scott Ogden also in there. Cameron Horseman not too far behind at the moment. So this battle for 4th place could go on quite significantly throughout the course of this race. 14 laps for these guys, so quite a long race in comparison to some of the other supported classes here this weekend, Michael.
Yeah, it is. 14 laps around here is quite a long way. It's a long lap time, just over the 2-minute mark, and so the guys are going to have to keep their focus, maintain their strength, pace themselves throughout the race. These bikes aren't too physical to ride, but when you're braking late, you tend to not breathe so well, so you kind of fatigue as the race goes on, just from big efforts on the braking zone, and sometimes you don't relax in there. Rory's found his way through to the front somehow.
There we go, good stuff for Rory Skinner. So he leads the way then on lap 2 here at Snetterton. Max Cooke will be trying to find a way past, but this is where we know that Rory is incredibly strong through this final sector, and to go through the sweeping right-hander and then they'll kick it left in just a couple of moments' time. He's very good on the brakes there, is Rory Skinner. So flicks it right and then into the left-hander. It's such an aggressive part of the lap there where you have to be so forceful with the motorcycle by the looks of things from these guys. But a great exit, though, from Max Cooke going out of that corner, and he is already in the slipstream, and this is where we know that he's very strong as well.
Yeah, he's got a good draft there. As you say, he was very physical with the bike on the change of direction and really punched it good. I thought with the acceleration he got, he might have been able to slipstream and pass Rory into turn 1. At the moment, Rory's advantage seems to be the middle cut of the turns. He's got an advantage corner speed-wise, so when Max follows him here, it'll be interesting to see if he adjusts something, his line, his riding style, to try and replicate what Rory's doing. But it looks like the two of those guys are able to gap Thomas Strudwick just a little bit. They're starting to make a little bit of a break. So that was the fastest lap of the race there from Rory at a 2:04.0. But look, comparing with qualifying at a 2:02.2, they're still quite a way off. So there's more to come as this race develops.
Rory Skinner fastest lap last time around as well, 2:04.0, and you can see him really making all sorts of shapes with that Honda NSF 250 RC machine. That bike moving all over the place and actually running a little bit wide out of there. That's going to allow Cooke to close up just a couple.
Yeah, you can see them being a little bit careful there. The track's been treated to the outside of the, kind of on the racing line. They have to cross some dust and where they've treated some oil. So the guys, maybe that's what's affecting the lap time a little bit. They can't go through there on the exact racing line. But yeah, but interesting to see Max here. He's looking really good. He's see Rory getting a little bit of a head shake onto the straight there. So it's so important to get these little bikes, get that acceleration off the straight. It carries your speed the whole way down there, and it makes such a difference. You can sometimes try so hard on the brakes, and you don't quite get the bike turned, and you lose that little bit of acceleration. So you work so hard on the brakes, and someone just breaking that little bit earlier, carrying the corner speed, and away they go off the turn.
Well, this is what we've seen in British Land Cup over the last couple of rounds, especially with lots of riders breaking out into their own sort of separate groups, given the different pace that we've seen through all of them as well. You can see that Cooke and Skinner in their own little groups. Strudwick just being left behind ever so slightly, but then there's a good battle here that we pick up now for 4th position. At the moment, still Brian Hart leading the way, but further down the order as well, there's some good little battles. This is the battle at the front of the field, but a lot of pace differentials here at the moment, Michael, and riders running a little bit faster, a little bit slower than one another.
Yeah, it seems to be those front three have just got a little bit of an advantage over the other guys, but Brian Hart stepped his game up this weekend a little bit closer, and Josh Watley's is quite close. I watched Scott Ogden at Donington, and he was even closer to the podium guys than he is now, so he's just not quite made that step up this weekend. Perhaps it's his first visit to the Snetterton racetrack, but he's in there in that battle with the 4th, 5th, 6th, so it's going to be an interesting one there.
Well, I was talking to Scott Ogden before he went to this race and said, what do you reckon your expectations are? He said, well, I don't want to say too much, but I reckon top 4 is a potential, you know.
That's good. Well, he's still in there with that chance of that 4th position, unless something happens with the lead 3 there. They're quite clear at the moment, having that 4.8 second advantage over the second group. So yeah, it's a good ride from Scott, and then hopefully what he's learned from today, he can up his game for tomorrow and get a little bit closer to that podium battle.
Being getting closer as well. Max Cooke really closing that gap to the race leader of Rory Skinner. Through the left-hander they go, and this is where we know that Skinner is very strong. But coming onto that straight, we could see Max Cooke closing up once again. Seems to be sort of getting relatively close, but not quite able to just be close enough to launch a move.
No, Rory just looks a little more comfortable. You know, his turning in the middle of the corner just seems a little bit easier than it does for Max. When Max commits to the corner, his front's starting to chatter a little bit, just bouncing, and that'll be kind of off-putting, but you know, he looks like he's comfortable forcing the bike, so he's trying to take a few liberties and just push a little bit harder to stay in touch with Rory, because at the moment Rory is bridging the gap over the whole field, but Max is the only one up in his game to go with him. So fair play, great ride from Max. With that experience that Rory's got, you know, he was the one that was banging in the lap times all weekend, so Max has done a great job here to match him so far. Well,
just over 9 laps to go then. It's going to be interesting to see how this one pans out between the runners and riders. Charlie Atkins, meanwhile, has managed to get the better of Jack Nixon, so Atkins now up into 8th position. Good ride for Atkins as well, actually, after what's been a bit of a challenging start to his season so far, but Nixon doing a good job as well. Likewise, Jack Hart inside the top 10. Charlie Farrer also making some ground. He's up into the points now, having disposed of Franco Bourne and Jonathan Campbell last time around. So over the timing line we go, and still Cooke piling that pressure on. Skinner, though, he knows that he's got the pace to be able to run with it. We can see that fastest lap last time around there as well, 2:03.5. That's very quick. Not necessarily the pace we were setting in qualifying earlier on this afternoon, but still very promising.
Yeah, great lap time from Rory. With the contamination on the track and just upsetting the line, they're probably losing maybe up to half a second through that section of the track, and then not having the slipstream to follow in. And I'm not sure if Rory actually used a slipstream in qualifying to do that low 2-minute 2, but yeah, he's running a good pace here. He's setting those comfortably fastest laps every lap, so he's chipping away half a second. It'd be interesting to see if he can get back into the 2:02 mark. But for the advantage they have, then we've got that battle with Brian Hart, Josh Watley and Scott Ogden at a similar pace. then when you look at from Charlie Atkins in 8th back, the rest of the field are very, very similar. They're all within 8 seconds back to the 20th position. So it seems like there's 3 speeds in this class. There's the front guys who just have things a little bit better dialed, and they've got a wee bit of an advantage. Then the next guys who are trying to make that step up, you know, the way Brian Hart, Josh Watley and Scott Ogden are, and then the rest of the class are at a similar level. So it's great racing throughout the field, and as I said at the start, I'm interested to see that progression from the guys. Each week they come back, how much closer they can get to the experienced riders at the front of the field.
Well, this is one of the things with the British Talent Cup, especially as well, is that it's not necessarily about picking the fastest 24 riders in Great Britain. It's about picking the riders they see that will be able to make those steps forward.
Exactly that. You know, Danny Pedrosa was a perfect example. Alberto Puig picked him years ago, and he wasn't actually the fastest in the series that he was coming through, but he liked what he saw. He was a good learner. He listened, he adapted, asked the right questions, and I think that's a big part of the Talent Cup. So they're going to be looking for the right advocates, not necessarily the fastest guy with the most experience currently. The guy who makes the most progress throughout the season could well be the one that ends up being the guy to step up in this class and go through the World Championship level in the future.
Well, the British Talent Cup, of course, 2019 applications are open until tomorrow. So if you are a young aspiring motorcycle racer and you fancy making a step up on the first step on the ladder to the road to MotoGP, well, this is the right place to start. Head over onto the website, BritishTalentCup.com, and submit your application form there. And you never know, you might be racing with these guys on the grid in 2019. And you can see just how close this grid really, really is as well. This is quite a nice little battle going on between Jack Hart and Charlie Atkins as well. That's Jack Hart at the front of your shot in 8th position. Charlie Atkins just behind. Then comes Jack Nixon, Scott Swan, Jamie Davis, Lewis Patterson also in the mix there as well. So again, quite a few runners and riders. And as you said there, Michael, that gap really quite pronounced back from the lower sort of points-paying positions around there. But again, very, very close on circuit for these guys.
Yeah, very close, and great performance from Charlie Atkins so far to come through from 16th on the grid in that battle for 8th position and up his pace. So yeah, like we say, we're always keeping an eye out for those guys who are making that step up, and it is a great battle there from 8th position back. So Jack Hart and Charlie going at it. They've just changed positions the last lap of the round.
So down the straight we go. You can still see that Skinner is having the pressure put onto him by Max Cooke. Cooke really thinking about a bit of a move, but again, just close enough at the moment, but not quite that close to make a bit of a sneaky pass through. So it's going to be interesting to see what Cooke's sort of tactics are here, whether he's just going to try and run with him and then try and launch a move towards the end of this race, but that's going to not help. Rory's going to charge.
He was lucky. Max should get through here, and he does. He sticks it under into Coram. So Rory just had carried a lot of speed through the middle of the bomb hole, got on the throttle and run out of track, and luckily the grass is quite dry this weekend. We haven't had much rain, so he was able to not lose too much time. But you know, Max has definitely got something. I think Rory probably at this stage is realising he's not making a break on Max, and Max was all over him on the approach to the bomb hole. So this is going all the way to the last lap, I believe.
Well, I don't think anybody would have predicted this at the start of the weekend, given Rory's got his pace advantage during Friday and Saturday.
No, definitely not. You know, as I said, I thought Max, you know, watching his riding style, his aggression with the bike at Donington, he quite impressed me, and he's doing the same again with the bike here. He's forcing it. He's learned from what Rory's done in those early laps, and he's upped his game. So here we see again a replay of Rory just getting on the throttle a little bit too early and running off track, but he done well to not make a mistake. His tyres would have been slightly dirty as he tipped in there, so he had to be cautious, and that allowed Max to get the run up the inside. So another replay from the outside. But yeah, he done well to save that. Didn't barely roll out of the throttle, to be fair to him. Looked over, seen Max was there, and gave up the spot.
Good stuff for Rory Skinner. Good stuff for Max Cooke, who now leads the way. So what will Cooke be able to do? The 15-year-old from Bristol, lives in Swindon, however, born in Bristol, but does live in Swindon, and well, he's quite far away from here, but regardless, he's very, very excited to be racing here, of course, this weekend. Also competes in the Rebel Rookies MotoGP Cup as well, and very, very well in that as of late also. So let's see what will happen. You can just see there Strumwick holding on to 3rd position. Doesn't seem to have an answer at the moment.
No, not this weekend. As the championship leader, he's going to have to respond to the pace that Rory and Max are showing, so he's going to have to look at his setup tonight, if it's a gearing thing or something he can do with his own riding to try and match those guys tomorrow. He's been a class act so far this season. You know, he looked really strong at Donington, but this weekend he just seems to lack a few tenths. He's not far away. He's just on his fastest lap of the race at 3:06.9. Or yeah, it's 2 minutes 3.669 last time around, which was faster than both the leaders. So yeah, he's still in the mix, but just that 2 seconds back is a little bit of too much of a gap to bridge over 7 laps.
Well, this is going to be very interesting to see how we fare. You can see Jack Hart as well. This is the battle for 8th position at the moment. Still Hart, who is in the front of your shot there on board the number 10 that is leading the charge. Just behind him is Charlie Atkins. So, again, quite a few riders in the mix there. You can see 5 of them, in fact, as well, with Atkins, Nixon, Davies and Swan all dueling for position. That could get pretty tasty towards the end.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good battle there with those 5 guys in the mix, and all running a very, very similar lap time. And it's great to see so many green lap times at this point in the race. So they're all improving as the race goes on. Everyone's doing their personal best last time round, so there must be at least 15 personal bests at that lap 7 of the race. So great performance.
We're at the halfway stage now in this race as well. You can see just tipping into that left-hander. Now it is Skinner who is back out in front ahead of Max Cooke. So the Scotsman has managed to get the better of the rider from Bristol then. What will happen, though, in the latter half of this race? Will Cooke be able to mount a charge? Will we see the 2 riders battling amongst one another? And that could potentially open the door for Strubwick behind as well.
Yeah, I think that last manoeuvre has given a little bit of an advantage to Thomas. So last time round, he caught them back another 0.7 of a second. So he is making big inroads. It looks like he's found a little bit of something. Maybe it is just the 2 guys going back and forth has allowed him to bridge that gap. But I think he's going to make contact and be back in the fight for the win here at the end.
So through into the right-hander we go. The top 2 still lining us at the moment. Strubwick, though, that gap coming down. 1.298 seconds it was at the last time over the line. You can see it's a little bit less than that now as we come down to this straight. But as long as the top 2 of Skinner and Cooke keep working together, then we should see them being able to increase that gap towards the latter part of this race. But conversely, though, we might see Strubwick having a little bit more pace. It'll be interesting to see what happens with regards to that. But the top 3 still in the battle of their own. Brian Hart as well. He's managed to make a gap on Josh Watley. So Hart looking like a surefire bet for 4th position. And that'll be pretty good there, Michael, for his championship charge as well.
Yeah, that'll be Brian's best result so far of the season. So that's a good step up for him. I'm not sure if he visited Snetterton before, maybe you know, but he's doing great on this time.
Yeah, Brian Hart, as you said there, on board the number 9 machine. Well, he's got a wealth of experience. He's actually a dual national as well. He's got a Brazilian mother and a British father. Speaks 3 different languages. Speaks Portuguese, speaks English very, very well, and speaks Spanish also. So that certainly helps him. Competed, of course, in the KTM British Cup in the German series as well last year. So he's got a wealth of experience and will have raced here at Snetterton before. So that will certainly be helping him. People who have raced here before include the likes of Rory Skinner and Max Cooke. And you can see Skinner responding to Cooke's charge there, Michael. Fastest lap last time around. Yeah,
fastest lap for all the front 3. Even Thomas Strudwick done a 2 minutes 3.4, which would have been the fastest lap of the race prior to that. So he's upped his game, and Max is up his game to respond to Rory's 2:03.3. So all 3 of the guys are really digging in here later on the latter part of the race, and I think it's going to be a 3-way fight. Thomas just needs to get that little bit more, and then he's in the draft, and it'll be a lot easier from there.
What is the key to being involved in the battle round here and doing it well so you don't lose time to the riders behind?
Yeah, it's a tough one because it's gone a little bit wide there. Rory just threw that left. He's managed to hold position. So yeah, it's so important to hit your braking markers around here. There's a lot of opportunity to just brake that little bit later, trying to pinch an inch on the brakes, and sometimes you get sucked in chasing that person in front. You try and gain a little bit too much, you end up wide, and it screws up the lap time. So yeah, you have to be really consistent. There's a great draft there from Max. It looks like he's going to try and lead it again here at the brakes at the end of the straight.
This is going to be very exciting. Down the inside goes Max Cooke, so shifting down the gearbox, and he goes through into the lead of the race. A little bit wide into the next corner, but manages to gather it up with relative ease, and Max Cooke then leads the way with just a few laps remaining here.
This is going to help Thomas Strudwick just to we can do a few more back and forths like that. It'll allow him to just make contact to the back of Rory. So yeah, that was a great move from Max. Oh, the front is moving through Coram curve there. It's such a fast, long corner. It's a constant. You're at full lean angle. You're on the throttle. The front's moving, and yeah, it didn't seem to phase him one bit. But yeah, Thomas, that's been good for him. He's made good progress on this lap. I think the gap's going to be down to under a second.
Absolutely no fear for these riders, is there? And the gap now down to under 1 second, as you said there. 0.8 over the line there, Michael. So really is coming down to the latter stages of this race that these 2 squabble.
Yeah, that's another great lap from Thomas to do a 2 minutes 3.4. So here again we see this move from Max. He just gets alongside in the slipstream, brakes a little bit later, and he struggled to pull it down here. The front's getting a little bit wide, but he still made it back for the right, so lost nothing. So great pass.
Good replay there of the battle. You can see there how Strubwick was 6.5 tenths of a second clear of Rory Skinner in terms of lap time last time around, and this three-way scrap really is coming into play now.
This is funny how Thomas lost contact, got settled into a good rhythm, and ended up coming faster towards the end of the race. So we don't often see that happening. So whether he's regripped or changed his riding, something's clicked for him, and as the fuel load's gone down later in the race and the tyres are a little bit greasier, something is obviously making him feel a little bit more confident with the bike, and he's pushing on to do his fastest laps here later in the race. So it's going to be a great three-way battle here for the podium over these last 4 laps.
Well, I was talking to him just before we went into qualifying earlier on today, and was saying about what sort of experience he's had around Snetterton. Of course, he's been racing here in the Moto Star Championship the last couple of years, and he was actually more interested in talking about his time on board a Ducati Panigale and the V4 machine that he'd been testing for Ducati.
And he's got a great draft here. I think he's going to be through the second place. Oh no, he backed out of that one. So.
Really thinking about it though, wasn't he? Signalling his intentions with a few laps remaining here, and well, certainly no holds barred between these 4.
Yes, as you say, Thomas, he's already been on a Panigale. When you speak to him, he's mature beyond his years. He's got a quite wise head on his shoulders. He's got quite a lot of experience in this championship. Rory's wide there at Podium. He's not going to make it around the outside of that long corner, but he's trying hard. And you can see that's the part of the track where Thomas just loses a little bit of touch with the lead too. They're a little bit faster, but over the first half of the lap he's very strong. So yeah, he's impressed me so far this race. But he's reaching down. Oh, he's pulling a bit of tape off the radiator. So these guys' bikes, they have a little tab. They can, if they see the temperature going up too high, they'll pull off a strip of tape and then hope they lower the temperature a little bit and get back to optimum running performance.
Great spot there, Mike. Also down through in towards turn number 2. This could be a crucial part of overtaking on towards the final lap, and a fantastic camera angle here as well, really demonstrating just what the riders are subjecting to the bikes and indeed themselves going through that corner as they flick it over towards the right-hand side of the track and then in towards the left-hander, which does indeed follow. These top 3 really lining astern at the moment. The position changing further down as well. Charlie Atkins is up into 8th place. He's managed to get the better of Jack Hart, and likewise Nixon as well is ahead of Davies. That's up into the top 10. So
what a move from Thomas Strudwick. 2 in 1 goes straight up the inside, but wasn't able to pull it down.
Well, dear oh dear. Well, that was very close indeed for Thomas Strudwick. Really thought about making his way through and thought about making his intentions pretty clear, but just bit off a little bit more than he could chew there, and Skinner does manage to take the lead back out in front. Here comes Max Cooke as well. He's going to try and find a way through. He's really signalling his intentions quite significantly at this stage, and with just a few laps remaining now, this is when it's going to start to get pretty interesting and probably quite aggressive as well.
Yeah, that was clever from Thomas. So obviously he's seen an opening, he went for it. If he had managed to pull that down, because he's had momentum the last few laps, he's been lapping quicker than these 2, so you know what, if him going to the front, he might have been able to let them battle out between themselves, but it just didn't quite work. But if he can do that and not get sucked into riding at their rhythm, it could end up being his race. So he's run such a good pace over the last 5 laps.
Max Cooke now into the lead of the race ahead of Rory Skinner then. So will Skinner be able to mount a charge and be able to respond? He's going to think about it certainly at the next corner. He's not going to find his way through around the outside. With a bit of a wider line and a few scrappy mistakes in that final sector from Skinner, that could really put pay to his charge, especially in these last couple of laps.
Yeah, with all the bikes so similar, it's all about just finding that little bit that you can do better. So if you can break really late in one section of the track, you've got to take advantage of that. It looks like Thomas can get a good acceleration and good draft, as we've seen, being able to pass 2 and looking at passing at the end of the straight, so it's almost 3 abreast here in the turn 1. So yeah, but Rory just looks composed. He's pushing hard, but he does look like he's maybe the more comfortable of the 3.
Well, Cooke having to take a tight line into that first corner would certainly compromise his run down in towards the second corner. You can see Skinner still leads the way then ahead of Max Cooke. So it is the Scotsman in front with 2 laps to go here at Snetterton. Meanwhile, further back as well, still Brian Hart ahead of Josh Watley. That's 4th and 5th position. Then Ogden in 6th, Horseman in 7th, Atkins in 8th position. I say Atkins in 8th. That's changed as well over the timing line because Jack Nixon is now up into 8th position ahead of Davies, Hart, and then Atkins.
Yeah, 8th through to 13th place, all in the same second, crossing the line. So there's going to be a great battle there for that 8th position.
It certainly is. Well, that will be one to watch. Just sticking on-board camera on those lads ahead of race 2 tomorrow. Of course, exactly the same grid order for race 2 as race 1, which if it's half as good as this race has been, it is going to be set to be an absolute cracker, especially with these 3 fighting out in front. The top 3 at the moment, reflecting how they lined up on the grid. But is it going to be like that in just a couple of laps' time when the checkered flag falls?
it's hard to call at this stage. You can see Rory just lifting his bum up just to kind of get a little bit of an aerodynamic. You want to get a flatter back, so he's doing everything he can to make himself as slippery as possible down this straight and stay at the front. So that tells me he wants to lead the race. He doesn't want these guys getting back through because he thinks he's got enough to hold them to the line. But you know, the pace is still in the 2-minute 3 bracket, so they're all pretty similar race pace at the moment. So there's not much to call between them.
Well, Skinner really putting the pressure on, as you can see, he's leading the way, but that bike really moving around underneath him as well. We've seen that over the course of this race here, Michael. Yeah,
just on the entry to Coram curve, there's a few little bumps and it just upsets these little light bikes. So once the front starts to move, that's where they have to have the confidence and commit and lean on it. And it'll be tough for some of the younger guys that are just learning their craft. These are quite rigid chassis, so that kind of movement can be quite intimidating. And it's a fast corner you don't want to crash on. But these guys with the experience and that extra commitment level, that's where they can make the difference.
Fastest lap last time around for Rory Skinner, 2:03.132. That was about 0.3 of a second faster than Max Cooke in second, and about 0.4 of a second faster than Strubwick.
Yeah, I thought that watching Rory's body language the last time around, it looked like he thought he could possibly make a little bit of a break. So he's gone to the front. He's obviously tried to string a few corners together and break them, but they're still in touch. So yeah, there's not a lot he can do to give himself a comfortable cushion. It's going to come down to a last lap fight.
Certainly is going to. You can see Cooke there just going towards the inside line. Doesn't think about making a move through there, but perhaps just ghosting one ahead of the final lap in just over 4 kilometres time for these runners and riders. These top 3 is getting very interesting. Strubwick there still holding on the 3rd position. A lot of corner speed being carried though for Max Cooke.
Max Cooke and Thomas just tipped into the left and both their front end was moving. I'm not sure if there's still a lot of dust there from where they treated the track, but that did not look comfortable for either of those guys.
Well, they managed to keep it upright, which is the most important thing. So through the right-hander on towards the very short straight. Let's see what will happen with these guys. Will we see the slipstream coming into effect once again? Will we see any moves being made? Again, perhaps ghosted and thinking about it into the next lap. No way through there for Max Cooke at the moment, but again, going for that tighter line into that corner and then flicking it left. And it doesn't really matter if you run it wide through that corner because you can pick it up into the next turn. Yeah,
it compromises your exit speed, but on these little bikes, if you can just get it kind of aggressively change direction and crack the throttle, you'll not lose too much time. But yeah, it's going to come down to this draft down the back straight there. Looked like Max had got a good acceleration onto the straight, but he couldn't quite pull out of the draft. But pushing hard here, so yeah, he's not going to give anything here on starting this last lap.
So on towards the final lap we go then. Just a bit of a look over the shoulder there for Max Cooke as he just sees how far Thomas Strubwick is, and Strubwick having dropped just a couple of bike lengths now on this final lap. He's going to have to hope that Cooke and Skinner come into some troubles on this final one. Into the first corner we go. Still Skinner that leads the way, but going down in towards turn number 2. That's the first real passing opportunity for these guys. And are we going to see Cooke making a bit of a move? He certainly thinks about it, but just holds in his line and bides his time ever so slightly.
Yeah, I think he's got something. You know, having that look backs onto the home straight there tells me that he's sizing it up. So he's looking to see if he's going to have anyone attacking from behind. And you know, even to do that, it compromises your speed a little bit. So I think he believes he can make a pass later in the lap here. It looks like he's sizing him up here. He might try and slip through now.
Really, he's thinking about it, isn't he? But again, just no opportunity presenting itself. Skinner really riding very, very well. Not riding overly defensively at the moment either.
No, sticking to his lines, and he's fast doing that. So I think it's going to boil down to the last couple of corners, because if Max gets a good acceleration onto the back straight, he should be able to pass him at the end of the straight. So it'll be interesting to see if Rory goes defensive here, if he tries to drift over to the left-hand side of the track down the back straight to make it difficult for Max to make that move.
You can see there Thomas Strubwick as well on board the number 8, just losing touch ever so slightly between the leading 2. So is it going to be win number 2 of the season for your race leader Rory Skinner, or will it be win number 2 of the season for Max Cooke?
Rory does exactly that, so drifted right over to the left of the track just to make it difficult for Max to pull out of his slipstream. So great defensive riding there. That was clever riding, just kept him behind and probably Max's strongest overtaking manoeuvre. So now it's going to boil down to the last corner. That's the only place he can really make this move.
Into the final sector we go then. You can see there that Rory Skinner, we've had a few uncharacteristic movements from the front and rear end of his bike over the last few laps, but no such dramas. And again, that front end chattering away for Skinner, but again, riding his line absolutely beautifully. What about into the final corner though? Is Cooke going to launch a move? He is! He goes down the inside as Max Cooke, and he gets the lead of the race at the final turn on the final lap. It's going to be a drag to the line between the two. Will Cooke be able to do anything? Will Skinner do it? It goes down to the line. Who's it going to be? It's going to go to Rory Skinner. What a race! What a final lap!
Great move from Max Cooke to stick it through there, but he just compromised his acceleration out of the turn a little bit. That allowed Rory to drop back to the line. But very, very, 10 out of 10 for effort from Max to stick it in there. It's not an easy pass to make and pull it down.
Absolutely brilliant stuff for Rory Skinner. He takes the victory, his second of the season, by just 40 thousandths of a second ahead of Max Cooke. Thomas Strudwick finishes on the podium in third position. This battle going further on down the order as well. You can see a few runners and riders just getting ready to come over the timing line. That's Cameron Horseman, who manages to hold on to 7th place ahead of Jack Hart. Nearly there and thereabouts. It goes down to the line between those two. Who gets it on the line? It is Jack Hart, who finishes in 7th place ahead of Cameron Horseman. Charlie Atkins in 9th, Scott Swan in 10th. And then it's Irwin, Davies, Nixon, Patterson and Laffins, who are your final point scorers, down in 14th and 15th position. But what a race from Rory Skinner. Bided his time perfectly there. Just used that slipstream absolutely brilliantly as well.
Yeah, I reckon that probably caught him by surprise when Max stuck it up the inside, because he had done a really good last sector. His front was moving. He was pushing so hard through Coram Curve. You'd seen it bobble on him twice, and he still kept committed. So fair play to Max for getting it in under him there. But just compromised his drive off the turn a little bit, and Rory didn't lose his composure, just focused on getting that exit, a little bit of draft, and then it carried him all the way up the straight.
Fantastic stuff for Rory Skinner. The 16-year-old from Perth in Scotland then takes his second victory of the 2018 British Talent Cup. Here's what happened then. You can see Skinner, he's leading the way at the moment, but up the inside slices Max Cooke.
And just when you watch Rory got back to the throttle, didn't drift out so wide, so he got a little bit better acceleration there. I thought when Max pulled across he was going to have to roll the throttle, but he didn't quite. So all that weaving probably cost Max a little bit and just allowed Rory to get that draft up to the line.
Absolutely fantastic stuff for the top two in this race. Rory Skinner and Max Cooke then finishing on top here this afternoon. Thomas Strudwick also on the podium as well. Good result for Thomas Strudwick, and this is going to be pretty crucial for his championship chance. Let's not forget he was on 57 points and leading the title going into this weekend, and he'll be doing a really good job to try and increase that deficit, or at least keep it the same, given the pace of the top two in this race, and indeed second and third in the championship of Rory Skinner and Max Cooke, who were on 51 points and 45 points respectively going into this weekend. As you can see there, Cooke on the slowdown lap, content with that second position.
Yeah, he'll be happy with that. Looking at the pace Rory had throughout qualifying, it's a surprise that anyone was able to bring the fight to him. So not only Max, Thomas can be happy with that performance as well, especially to lose touch in the mid part of the race, to put that real hard push over 5 laps to bridge the gap back to the leaders. So yeah, great performance from all the top three really. They can all be happy with that tonight, and then look to what they can do tomorrow to try and stop Rory.
Well, all the riders now on their cool-down lap to see the number 24 waving to the crowd. That's Jonathan Campbell, finished down in 18th position, so he'll be hopeful of some steps forward there. But the 21 runners and riders who started this race all managing to finish as well. Not quite the races of attrition that we've seen so far this season. Rory Skinner there and his dad celebrating after that race victory, his second of the season, as we said, and that will be doing wonders for Skinner's championship charge.
Yeah, he had a difficult opening round at Donington Park in the real cold conditions. But then last time out at Donington, he looked really composed, and kind of that experience was shining through. This weekend, he's shown the field a clean pair of heels throughout practice, but had to ride hard for it. We've seen him run off track. We've seen him the front moving around Coram. So the guys are making him work for it, but he's still a class act. So he's the one that they all need to beat, really.
Max Cooke there, you can see in part firmer as well. His helper James on the right-hand side of your shot, or he just was before we cut back to Rory Skinner and those long locks waving in the wind here this afternoon. What a race. Let's have a look at the final results then here at Snetterton. So it is Rory Skinner from Scotland who is on top. Max Cooke and Thomas Strudwick on the podium. Brian Hart, a brilliant 4th position, but quite a lonely race for him there. Josh Watley inside the top 5 ahead of Scott Ogden, Jack Hart, Cameron Horseman and Charlie Atkins. And then inside the top 10 was Scott Swan. Then 11th was Rhys Irwin, the Irishman, ahead of Jamie Davis, Jack Nixon, Lewis Patterson and Sam Laffins. Ross Turner just missing out on points by a 10th of a second to Laffins there. He was ahead of Franco Bourne and Jonathan Campbell as they went to the line. Charlie Farrer, Aidan Davey and Harvey Clary is the last of the classified runners here this afternoon. Sets it up quite nicely, though, ahead of the second race tomorrow.
Yeah, it does. So we expect more of the same, really, and see if Brian Hart can perhaps find something overnight in the warm-up and match that podium runner. So that was a good performance for him. It's a lot closer.
Well, the championship standings, as you can see, Rory Skinner has a 3-point advantage now over Thomas Strudwick as we go into race 2 tomorrow. Max Cooke in third position, 11 points adrift. So it is going to make it pretty interesting with regards to what happens in race 2 here tomorrow morning. Let's wait and see how it will go. But Rory Skinner then on top, no question about it, this afternoon, and now leading the Riders' Championship as well.
That's the first time Thomas has relinquished the championship lead so far. His consistency has been bang on, but now he's going to have to fight for those race 1 wins to claw back a few points on Rory. You know, he's starting to get his teeth into him.
Well, let's wait and see what will happen with regards to tomorrow, but you can see here Rory Skinner then is on top this afternoon here at Snetterton in race number 1. He is on the top step of the podium, Max Cooke alongside him, and Thomas Strudwick also on the rostrum as well. And third place for Thomas Strudwick. Smiles all round for the rider from Littlehampton. Max Cooke in second position as well, and then Rory Skinner, his second first place trophy of the 2018 season. He had to work hard for that one.
He did. Full credit to him. You know, you can see the commitment. Whenever you watch a bike and the front end's moving like that, that's how Marc Marquez rides a bike. And these guys are youngsters, and they've got that level of commitment at this stage, and they know that that's what's required if they want to make that step up to World Championship. So those 3 guys standing on the podium can all be happy with their performance today.
And now time for the national anthem here at Donington. And the national anthem, of course, here at Snetterton as opposed to Donington, rather. Rory Skinner on the top step of the podium then here this afternoon. What a race from the Scotsman. He leads the championship by 3 points going into race 2. That's along the way at 11:15 local time here tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see what happens with regards to it. These top 3 pretty much setting the bar very, very high.
The bar is high. That's the tough thing. You know, you've got experience and youth here at the front, and it's going to be interesting with what Brian Hart can do, Josh Watley, Cameron Horseman, can they up their game? You know, it's going to be difficult to do it overnight. You know, what one day's worth of progress isn't going to be the step they need to match them. You know, the race tomorrow is going to be slightly cooler because it's a little bit earlier in the morning. Will that change things drastically? I don't believe so. I think it's still going to be that top 3 in the fight for the race win.
Well, we'll leave you with some highlights then of the first race of the weekend here for the British Talent Cup at the Snetterton circuit. From Michael Laverty alongside me, from myself, Tom Brooks, it's been a pleasure to bring you the coverage here this afternoon. Rory Skinner is on top. He leads the championship by 3 points, and we'll see you for race 2 tomorrow morning at 11:15 local time.